Hello, and welcome to our presentation about significant alumni the University of Michigan has to offer. My name is Rachel, and throughout this presentation, you'll be hearing from Lou, Swan, Alicia, and myself about a few different alum and the overall growth and success that U of M can bring to alumni. To start, Michigan has over 611,000 living alumni around the world today, making the alumni network ranked in the top 10 most powerful alumni networks of any university in the world. From presidents like Gerald Ford to athletes like Michael Phelps to actors and actresses like James Earl Jones, U of M alumni truly stretch from far and wide. For my significant alum, I chose to research Dr. Alexa Kennedy. Born on November 7, 1950 in Lansing, Michigan, Kennedy was born to do great things. Her parents, Clinton and Hortense Kennedy, were inspirations in their own right. Clinton Kennedy was a dentist in Lansing and was only the second black dentist to practice dentistry in Lansing. Hortense Kennedy was a part of the Lansing School Board, and both of her parents were very active in the Detroit NAACP chapter. And Clinton Kennedy even served as chapter president for some time. Kennedy graduated from Lansing High School in 1967 and graduated from Michigan with a zoology degree in 1971. Although she was a star student, when she got to college, things got tough for her, and she even considered dropping out. A major change later, she got her confidence back and even began to experiment with different fields of work. One summer, she worked in a genetics lab and found her love of medicine. She would go on to the school's medical program and graduate in 1975. On one of her first days at Yale New Haven Surgical Residency Program, a doctor had mistaken her for an equal opportunity package doctor, which is basically like saying she was only at the residency because she was black and a woman. She would rest this off and work even harder. She worked so hard that she was named a top resident at her residency program. She would go on to work at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for some time, and would later go on to become chief of neurosurgery at Children's Hospital of Michigan in 1987. Even though Kennedy was a very prominent doctor, she was still not excluded from discrimination. At the time when Kennedy was becoming a doctor, this was a time where African Americans were enrolling in medical school and were on the incline. They made up 7% of enrolled students between 1965 and 1975, versus before 1965 and during the Civil Rights era, African Americans were less than 2% of the enrollment. With these numbers, we can guess that finding a black doctor in this field is a dime a dozen. With Kennedy, we can guess the kind of treatment she faces, especially in the neurosurgeon field, where the makeup is overwhelmingly white and male. In a paper published by Colorado Technical University, it talks about how in the healthcare profession there isn't emotional support for black women, especially if they're under high amounts of stress. Black women in the medical field face stress just like any other person, but it can be bonded by the strong black woman stereotype, meaning they can do it all and don't need emotional or physical help. It is possible that Kennedy in this situation was made to feel like Superman or not capable of doing her job. There is no in between. Despite this, Kennedy still made history and earned many different honors, awards, and statuses. When Kennedy retired in 2001, she went on to work part-time as a neurosurgeon in Florida. This shows that Kennedy loves her craft, and no matter what obstacles she faced, she wouldn't stop that from doing what she loves. In medicine, there are a lot of firsts. especially in the 1950s to 80s. It was a prominent time for African Americans in medicine. In the next presentation, we'll explain how even more history was made in the neurosurgeon field.
I'm going to be speaking about Benjamin Carson, known as Ben Carson. He grew up in Detroit, and I read summaries of some of his books where he explained that he was a very problematic child and that he dealt with anger issues because there's a situation where he almost killed one of his friends because of something that was very simple, but fortunately his friend had a thick belt that prevented the blade from going through. And it was from that moment that Carson found out that he wanted to be somebody that saved lives instead of being someone who took them. I looked at a couple interviews, and in a lot of them he spoke about how in high school he was never somebody who took school seriously. His grades were really low and he never really did his homework. He explained that he would prefer playing video games or going out instead of actually sitting down and focusing on his schoolwork. But because of his mom, he was able to turn his academic life around because his mom would make him read books and write book reports based on those books. Carson graduated from Southwestern High School with a high GPA, and he was on the top of his class. Carson stated in many of his interviews that he did not want to be stereotyped of what being a black male from Detroit was. Instead, he wanted to prove people wrong. So, after he graduated high school, he went on to attend two very prestigious universities. He received his bachelor's from Yale in 1973 and his medical degree from the University of Michigan's Medical School in 1977. Carson had stated that before he attended Yale, he had received a full ride to West Point. However, he did clarify that that was just something that he said just to make himself look better. And after graduating from U of M's medical school, Carson had said that during medical school he struggled because he wasn't used to the rigorous curriculum and he wasn't used to being on top of everything. And his advisor had told him to drop out of medical school because it was not meant for him. However, Carson said that he was somebody who was always persistent. Therefore, he tried to be on top of his assignments and he attended a lot of his professor's office hours, which I guess helped him a lot. In fact, Carson graduated on the top of his class and he received academic honors. And after graduating, he went on to do his residence in Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is a very prestigious hospital when it comes to neuroscience. Carson believed that his hand and eye coordination was key to making him an effective neurosurgeon, which is why he decided to go into neuroscience instead of being a physician, which was his original plan. Carson became the first brain surgeon to successfully separate twins conjoined at the back of the head, and he said that a lot of surgeons had tried to perform the surgery in the past, like way before him. However, they never succeeded because of various reasons, and their patients would not make it through the surgery. And that was in 1987. And in 1997, Carson performed the first fully successful separation of type 2 vertical craniopagus twins in South Africa. And he did receive a lot of recognition for multiple other things, and he received a lot of awards as a neurosurgeon. So he was on top of the list for worldwide neurosurgeons. However, in 2013, he decided to retire after 33 years of being a top-notch neurosurgeon. Carson began to speak out on politics, especially on criticizing Obama and his decision as a leader in terms of the Affordable Care Act. And Carson wanted to run for the Republican candidate for the 2016 presidential election. However, he did back down and he endorsed Donald Trump for the 2016 election. I think that his endorsement caused Donald Trump to make him Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, in addition to his agreement with criticizing Obama's strategies. I think that Carson is a wonderful example of how no matter what happens in life, like we have to look in the future and we have to persevere. And next is going to be Juan talking about Tom Brady and his experience at U of M, as well as his accomplishments that he has carried on as a professional athlete.
The significant alumni that I have chosen is Tom Brady. In my portion of the PowerPoint, I'm going to be describing how Tom Brady's grit, dedication, and success has raised the U of M brand. To begin, during Brady's high school years, he was overlooked and was not a highly followed prospect. Brady stood at 6'4" and weighed 210 pounds, which was just an ordinary body type for a college-bound quarterback. Brady's father, Tom Brady Sr., and his high school coach, Tom McKenzie, would send videotapes of him making passes in practices and in games to many college coaches to help promote his recruiting. At the time, these videos were made through YouTube links, VCRs, and Huddle links. It was in 1994 that one of these recruiting videos found its way to the defensive coordinator at the University of Michigan, Bill Harris. Majority of Brady's recruiting took place during his senior year, which was considered very late. Brady was in contact with big schools, including University of Southern California, UCLA, Illinois, and the University of Michigan. Many reporters and scouts say that Brady had the potential to play both football and baseball at the University of Southern California and UCLA. But eventually, Brady chose football. Late in his senior year, Brady chose to go to the University of Michigan. In 1996, Brady arrived. He was the sixth-string quarterback and was underestimated by many of his teammates and coaches. During Brady's first 2 years at Michigan, he did not get a lot of playing time, and the only way he was going to earn it was by continuing to practice hard and compete against his teammates. Nobody thought he was anything spectacular, and because of this, the only way he was going to get a chance to play was by continuing to work hard every single day. As a sophomore in 1997, Brady had to compete to be the starting quarterback, but he lost his opportunity to another senior. At this time, Brady considered transferring back to his hometown in California. During these tough times, a guy named Greg Harden came into the picture. Harden reset Brady's mentality. If it wasn't for Harden, Brady would not have stayed at Michigan. He not only motivated Brady to work harder, but to reevaluate his overall game. From this conversation, Brady became one of the most successful football players of all time. He eventually became the starting quarterback and full-time player for the University of Michigan and was the 199th pick in the NFL draft. Many organizations, including the New England Patriots, did not expect Brady to do so well in the NFL. He was underestimated. He wasn't even considered average. Because of this, Brady decided to develop his mentality and work even harder when in college. In fact, the only two reasons why Brady was drafted, according to scouts, was his ability to handle difficult situations and his competitive attitude. But once he got to the NFL, those qualities went to a whole nother level. Brady began to win MVP Super Bowl titles. He was very, very consistent. He set multiple NFL records and never lost a season starter. A lot of the time, NFL fans only like to focus on the trophy or accolades an athlete receives. They fail to recognize the hard work it took to make it to the professional stage. But Brady has definitely proved this. It was his grit, self-perseverance, and determination developed in college which led him to have a successful career in football. Brady is constantly hungry and he always wants to win. It's almost as if he's still trying to fight to get playing time on the field. His competitive spirit not only left a footprint at the University of Michigan, but on the football world as well. He went from being an ordinary high school quarterback to an NFL superstar. Throughout his entire career, he was underestimated, but his work ethic has force people to view him differently. Brady still makes time to visit the University of Michigan, attend games and practices with the players and coaches. He is not only a significant alumni because of his fame and popularity, but because of his work ethic. He has definitely proven that being an underdog isn't always such a bad thing.
As part of my group projects, I decided to take on a different approach and rather focus on a less specific topic, which was still related to our main topic, Michigan alumni. The entirety of my research was about how Michigan alumni have contributed to the growth and success of the university and its students. I found my topic to be less specific as compared to the topics of my group members, like you saw in the previous slides. Hence, I narrowed down my topic to 4 areas which have benefited from alumni contributions. These include infrastructural developments at UMich, providing a cost-effective education through scholarship programs, UMich alumni helping to improve upon the areas needed for student development such as diversity, inclusion, etc., and finally, involvement in the lives of students. My approach to this topic involved me looking up the different alumni contributions each of the 19 schools that UMich has received, which led me to an article on MLive titled, "See the University of Michigan 10 Largest Donations in School History." There I found a list of donations made by several famous alumni from Michigan, such as Steph Ross and many others. The article shows some of the schools, departments, student orgs, etc. that benefited from these donations. I came across another article, which went deeply into the transformation of the Ross Business School, which was as a result of these alumni donations. In this article, the author states that these alumni donations contributed to creating a more modern learning experience for the student population. Following this, I diverted my focus onto the Alumni Association, which is independent from the university. There I found the Lee Scholars Program, which I thought would effectively support my point. I defined the program in my research as a program for underrepresented groups who are enrolled or intend to enroll at the university. This particular source was a great contribution to my overall work as it showcases how Michigan alumni are concerned with improvement upon diversity and equity at Michigan while providing a cost-effective education for the university students. I also found another source in ProQuest which was related to the Lee Scholars Program, which talked about how the association decided to expand the program by $30 million. Another point I made in my research paper was about how these alumni continue to stay involved in the lives of students through clubs, programs, events, etc., which provides us students with the necessary support to navigate through college. In my research paper, I stated that students who build relationships with their university alumni often find it easier to deal with issues associated with being a college student, which I think is very true because alumni have much more experience when it comes to college life. They might even have certain similarities in the sense that they took classes which we might be interested in, so they could provide us with some advice on how to go about taking certain classes. Another source I found but did not include in my research is this chart showing a snapshot of the entire Michigan budget. As you can see, the donations received from Michigan alumni contribute to the entire budget for Michigan by making up close to 1/4 of the entire budget. These donations constitute the expendable restricted funds, which, as seen in this chart, is about 15.1% of the entire budget. I found this chart to be really relevant as it shows that these donations contribute to the payment for scholarships and research programs at Michigan. I was interested in this specific topic because as a student of this university, it is important for me to be aware of the support I can gain from the school's alumni, especially since most serve as mentors, advisors, and pathway to potential careers. Therefore, I chose this research topic to explore the numerous benefits I could gain from the alumni community as a student and how these benefits can yield to success in my college years. Doing this research taught me a lot of things and increased my reasons as to why being a student of Michigan is very beneficial. First, I learned about the Lee Scholars Program, which I did not know of until I did this research. I was also exposed to numerous clubs and events offered by the Alumni Association that are related to my specific field of study and seem very interesting, as well as different other scholarships. Some questions I had during my research but did not find answers to, unfortunately, are percentage of Michigan staff that are alumni and how the previous alumni support recent graduates from Michigan. To sum this up, as you can see from my presentation, Michigan alumni have greatly contributed to increasing the reputation of their school in academia, research, and many others. It is rather unfortunate to see that all the support is continuing to decline over the years. As we all know, Michigan has a lot of famous alumni, and I believe that if Michigan is able to receive a lot of support from its diverse list of alumni, the university will be more than what we know it to be as of today. The following are some sources that I included in my presentation. To summarize our presentation, I would like to recap some of the things that my group members and I discussed. In our presentation, we focused on these three notable alumni whom we saw to have had similar challenges during their time at Michigan and beyond. We discussed that these renowned personalities were able to persevere amidst all the adversities to become who they are today. To add to the effectiveness of our research, we diverted our focus to a more broader yet relevant topic on how some of the university's alumni, like the one we previously mentioned, have contributed to the university and its students' success. We found out that they support the university greatly through donations, scholarship programs, and the Alumni Association, as well as continue to stay involved in the lives of students. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. I would like to thank y'all for your time and attention this evening. Now, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask during the discussions, and my group and I will do our best to answer.